Alright, welcome back to ArchiHack's portfolio review, where ex-Big and ex-OMA architecture student reviews your portfolio. As usual, my comments are subjective and purely based on my opinion, but I hope that my comments will give you more ideas for your own portfolio. So let's get right into it. So the first portfolio we'll be taking a look at is by, I'm totally going to butcher the name, but Pryansh Ajmera. Thank you for your portfolio, and I'll do my best to give you as much constructive criticism as possible. So cover page looks pretty good. First off, I think the introductory page looks pretty complete as well. I'll just be careful with the spacings at the top and bottom. It's a little bit more tight at the bottom than top. And also this bio, I almost missed it. Maybe consider bring your profile picture down or bring the description up a little bit. And another thing I might consider is the spacing between your bigger points and then your smaller points. So for example, the alignment here is a little bit off, and the spacing here must be smaller than the spacing between the two different experiences. But other than that, I'll move quickly. So this project actually confused me a little bit because it's a nice title page with like a full bleed rendering, but there's actually no follow-up information. We just go straight to the next project. So I would encourage you to either include more information or take this project out completely. And the second project, so there's actually many nice things going on. For example, this layout of diagram on the left and project information on the right repeats in every project. However, I feel like there is a bit of a confusion between, where the project starts and ends. So this title block kind of alludes to me that this is the beginning of the project instead of on the left side. So what I would do is encourage you to switch places. So I'll instantly do that in Photoshop right now. I feel like it already feels a little bit more like a true beginning of a project is on the left side, and then the diagram explains what the project is a little bit more in detail. And one thing I might add is to add some more supplementary arrows to these diagrams. I'll take a dark red color and try painting something in. So the first diagram is about just extruding the mass. So I'll just maybe we'll highlight the site, dotted lines in the back, and then, or either we could just do that or some arrows to extrude. Second, about cutting the circulation, we should definitely put some arrows to show how the circulation looks. So I'll do something like that. And third, open space towards the southwest. I'm not sure which direction that is, but I'm guessing it's this way. So we should definitely put some arrows. Maybe put some arrows to show that some of the massings have been broken down. Maybe smaller arrows to show these little alleyways you've created. Last but not least, openings and facade treatment could definitely use some highlight color. So we'll like take a semi-transparent color and then just kind of highlight what are the facades, what are the elements that you've modified from the previous massing, so that the readers are very clear about what each step is all about. So something like that. So this is how the spread would look. Of course, you have to go through all the drawings with Illustrator, but this would be the general gist of it. All right, moving onwards. I think you actually have really good drawing style, and I really appreciate that. But one thing about layout can be improved, in my opinion. So one rule of thumb is that the size of the drawing that takes up your page should be proportional to the amount of detail and information that's in each drawing. So for example, to me, like this drawing has the most level of detail and you put the most amount of effort into it. So I think it'll be fair that this page becomes a dominant element, and then rest of them are just supporting images. And by that, I mean something like, so I'll be doing something like this, where your sectional image takes up the most amount of space, and then the supplementary drawings can explain the main drawing. So I haven't looked too deeply into your project, but I hope that this section actually does justice in explaining your project. So that's another thing that should be considered. Moving on. Yeah, so I really appreciate the full bleed images that are starting off each project. It brings you like a definite start and end to each project. But one thing that kind of confused me again is that there's a dedicated title block, which is really good. But on the following pages, there's that secondary title block, which seems a little bit repetitive. So I would encourage you to maybe try to find a way to integrate this into this title block and just start explaining your project right away with more drawings. Similar comments about this page as well, where this impressive section is a little bit diluted by other drawings. So I will make this section full bleed again, and then make the other drawings support it. Especially this axonometric drawing seems a little bit incomplete in comparison to the other two drawings. So consider rearranging your images and giving them different weights and biases. Again, impressive rendering as well as nice title block. But one thing I would suggest doing is actually taking out this gradient and making this screen solid so that you can read every text. You can see that the text is almost disappearing. One thing I really wanted to point out again is that he's experimenting with different kinds of illustration styles. And I think that's really important for students who are just starting out. Yeah, so for example, this section on its own may have been a little bit boring, but this abstract graphical looking sun really adds so much to this section. So I encourage you to try doing that. Another great thing I want to point out about this project is that the color scheme is very consistent. And then this Alex Hogrenfe style hard shadow, as well as, this graphical lines that doesn't actually have much to do with the architecture, but adds so much visual interest to your drawing. It's well labeled with text, and then north arrow is complete with a scale bar. Very impressive. And also an extra big points about the section that runs through all these floor plans. I thought that was extremely creative. And then moving onwards, I think this is the part where the layout starts to break down a little bit. Um, he's no longer following that rule about, full bleed pages. Sounds a little bit nitpicky, but the moment it starts to break down like this, you see how the pattern goes all over the place. So my suggestion would be to make this rendering full page and then kind of really walk the audience throughout your project and bring them to the entrance and then see what happens within the building in the next page. So going to the next page, it will be more about the interior experience. Interestingly, he also has landscape design experience, so I'll check this out as well. And yeah, don't have much to say about these, but really appreciate these rendered plan as well as orthographic drawings like these. Well done. One thing I might point out is that looking at the size of the people, I feel like there are different scales, but maybe consider finding ways to make them more consistent. This is the part where the pattern breaks down even further, where he's no longer giving you this full title block and not sure where the background story of these projects are. So I'm guessing that since these are normal working drawings, I'm guessing this is from some sort of internship. So I think it would be important that you bring back the title block and mention information such as what year these were done, which employer did you work with when you made these, and which phase these drawings are made for. So was it for construction drawing, design development, etc., etc. Graphically, this is not something you see very often, adding these kind of shadows and inverting black and white, adding extra colors in a very sometimes dry construction drawing is a fresh breath of air. So I really commend you for that. And then, so this is the part where I thought the portfolio will come to an end because people usually put their work experience, less conceptual work in the end. So conceptual work and built work is usually separated, but he actually goes back to conceptual work again. I'm guessing this is the beginning of the competitions, and he's basically pasting in his competition panels. And as you can see, the introduction page is breaking down again. I think this should have been the first page, and then following up on that page should be explaining concepts and then giving you more detailed information. One thing we could have done, I think, is something like this. So here's a quick example of what I would have done instead of doing what we already have. So I would start with a full bleed page where it shows you that your best rendering, assuming that you have all the high resolution images. And then on the second page, I'll be going further into the details about the project instead of presenting everything in one page. So kind of keeping pace with the previous projects, I think this will be more comfortable for your readers. And in the future videos, I'll be covering more detailed layout lessons, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And last but not least, I was really impressed with the art and graphics that you've made. I'm kind of questioning whether it was necessary to have them as separate section, I wonder if we could even like crop them and use them as like the beginning cover pages in the beginning and the end. So for example, like this one, I think is kind of appropriate for the last page. The beginning cover can be something like this one. Something like that as a cover, I think would have given you where your inspiration comes from without having to dedicate a whole section and fatigue to the reader. Overall, great work, and I was really impressed with most of the graphics. I think you can make them even better with some of the comments that I've given. And of course, all the comments are subjective, and you should find your own solutions to them. Alright, that's about it for today, and let me know if you guys have any comments or questions, and feel free to drop me a link to your portfolio, and I'll do something like this for you as well. Until next time, take care.